Welcome to Candlelit for kids.
For kids.
Gunners tea.
How are ye?
We are
Candlelit Tales.
What do we do?
We tell stories, and today we're telling stories just for kids.
And what kind of stories?
Irish folklore, Irish myths, and we like to play around with music and cool sounds to go with them.
Ooh, where can you find us, Roo?
You can find us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, hashtag Candlelit Tales for Kids.
And if you're a big person watching and you want to help out what we're doing, how can you do that?
You can become a patron at patreon.com/Candlelit Tales for Kids.
Great. What's today's story, Roo?
Today's story is The Giant Causeway.
Now, before you go into this story, make sure you listen to the end of the video to find out today's mythic fun fact. Take it away, Roo.
You!
In the north coast of County Antrim, there is a natural wonder called the Giant's Causeway. Giant pillars of rock, shaped like stepping stones with many sides, all huddle together and plunge into the cold sea. Some people say they were made by volcanic eruptions, but that's just one story of how the Giant's Causeway came to be. Here's another. Long ago, there was a woman in Ulster named Una. She was a very, very smart woman. Nobody could ever win an argument against Una. She was married to a man named Fionn McCool. He was the leader of the Fianna, a famous travelling band of warriors and hunters. The Fianna loved their leader. In their eyes, he could do no wrong and lose no fight. They loved him so much, they would sing this song as they travelled around Ireland.
Whack-fa-la-li-lay-lo, only a fool would ever pick a fight with the bold Fionn McCool. Whack-fa-la-li-lay-lo, only a fool would ever pick a fight with the bold Fionn McCool.
Many people tried to pick a fight with Fionn, but he was such a good warrior, he would always win. However, Una was concerned about this. She knew the way that stories spread and became exaggerated. She kept telling Fionn that one day someone would pick a fight with him that he wouldn't be able for. Fionn would say,
"Oh, McCree, don't you be worrying about me. Don't you know that when those people do be telling stories about me, they do be telling you that only a fool would fight Fionn McCool."
and he would leave, off hunting with the Fianna, singing their song.
Whack-fa-la-li-lay-lo, only a fool would ever pick a fight with the bold Fionn McCool. Whack-fa-la-li-lay-lo, only a fool would ever pick a fight with the bold Fionn McCool.
One day, Una was home alone, enjoying the peace and quiet. All of a sudden, Fionn came charging through the door. He was puffing and panting and sweating, his face white with fear. He looked at his startled wife and he said,
McCree, you were right after all. There's a giant after me. Oh, McCree, hide me. You'll have to do something. He's huge. His hair touches the sky, and he's driven great stones off out of the ground, straight into the bed of the sea, and he's standing his way across from Scotland to this land. He's walked the way just for the fight of me. McCree, what'll I do?
Una thought for a moment. She wasn't one for getting overexcited about things. she hatched a plan. She told Fionn not to worry, she would handle this. But he had to do just what she told him, no questions. Fionn nodded earnestly. Una told Fionn that the first thing he had to do was take off all of his clothes because she was going to wrap him up in a big swaddling cloth so that he looked like a giant baby. Poor Fionn began to gasp and splutter in protest, but with one look from his wife, Fionn remembered that he had promised to do exactly as he was told without asking any questions. Una then told Fionn to lie down and close his eyes. Poor Fionn. He was so confused. He went to do just what he was told, sniffling a little bit, feeling a bit sorry for himself. Una sat down calmly by the window. She heard giant footsteps approaching.
My name is Ben O'Donnell. I'm a Scottish giant. See me? I'm huge. I've come all the way from Scotland, driving stones into the ocean to fight the legendary Fionn McCool. They say that only a fool would fight Fionn McCool. Well, I'm here to fight him. And I'm no fool. Right.
Una opened the door and said,
Are you sure you're a giant?
Hey, what? I'm huge. What are you talking about?
replied the giant, a bit unsure of himself all of a sudden.
Aye, right. It's just you're a wee bit on the small side for a giant. Fionn isn't here right now, but you can come in and wait for him, and he can beat you up later.
The giant was very confused. He had never been greeted like this by somebody before. People normally just ran away screaming. With a puzzled look on his face, he followed Una inside the house, squeezing and squeezing and squeezing himself in as best he could, the whole house creaking, barely able to contain the massive giant.
Oh, tiny house.
Then he looked down into the corner, where Fionn was dressed like a big baby. The giant looked down and he shouted,
That's Fionn McCool!
Yes, that's Fionn Jr., our baby.
replied Una.
Huh? But he's got a beard.
Oh yeah, such a little beard. Myself and Fionn Sr. get worried about him. He's so small. We hope he'll grow up big and strong like his daddy.
The giant was now having some second thought. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea for him to have come over to Ireland to try to fight the famous Fionn McCool. Maybe this Fionn was a giant, after all. A really, really big giant. A giant even bigger than him. Maybe it was true what that song said, that only a fool would fight Fionn McCool. The giant began to back away, making his excuses, squeezing and squeezing and squeezing himself out of the house.
I've actually got to go home. I'm not important meeting. Mammy's calling me. I've got to go. It's my best if I'm going. Okay, bye!
It's a pity you can't stay.
Una shouted after the giant.
But maybe Fionn can go over and visit you in Scotland next time.
Huh? Oh, no, that's all right.
He can use your lovely stepping stones to make the way over.
Oh, yeah, stepping stones.
The giant, shaking with fear and muttering to himself, began to pull up each one of those massive stones as he went along, throwing them all back towards the Antrim coast, where they landed with great splashes in the water, one after the other.
Don't need to visit. Bye!
And this is how the Giant's Causeway was formed. Fionn had never been so grateful to his clever wife. From that day on, when the Fianna were out hunting and singing their song. They changed up the words just a little bit.
Whack-fa-lally-lay-lo, you better think twice before you have an argument with Una the Wise. Whack-fa-lally-lay-lo, you better think twice before you have an argument with Una the Wise.
Wow.
Cool story. And big shout out to our illustrator, Garrett Curtis, for making those deadly pictures to go along with the story, because they make them a whole lot better, don't they?
Ah, they're beautiful. Thanks, Gareth.
Thank you, Gareth. All right.
Now, that was lovely. And what's the best thing to do after a story? You gotta think about it. So, Roo, what did that story make you feel?
That story made me feel like, well, I thought it was really funny. I mean, that image of Fionn McCool being dressed up as a big baby and kind of not really know what's going on, and the giant coming in and freaking him out, and then the giant getting all scared because he falls for Una's trap and everything. That was all very funny.
Pretty
funny
funny.
story.
Pretty funny.
I felt a little sorry for Fionn as well.
And what did you think the message of the story was?
I would say that the message of the story was about sometimes in certain situations you're better off using your head than trying to bull your way through with just strength. Sometimes this is better.
Brains over brawn. That's very good. And tell us now, what should you do after hearing a good story, Roo?
Well, a few things you can do. Whatever way you feel inspired yourself. If you're into drawing pictures, you could always draw a picture of the story, depict the characters, or you could write a song if you feel inspired by them, write a song about them, or you could do a bit of a dance if that's your thing. But what's our favourite thing to do, Aaron? Tell somebody.
a story.
Tell somebody the story, because that way you pass it on and you keep it alive.
Nice. And if there's any one else online and they want to do something, what could they do?
Right, well, another thing you can do is you can subscribe to this channel. Press
it
the
now.
big subscribe button. That helps us loads. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and all those things, and give us the likes and give us the follows and all that, and just support us.
Oh, speaking of support, if you're a big person and want to support us, what do you do?
You can go to patreon.com/Candlelit Tales for Kids and become a patron. That really helps us.
That really helps us. And is that it? I think that's about it.
Today's mythical fun fact.
What's today's mythical fun fact,
Today's
Roo?
mythical fun fact. This story featured the Fianna. Now, we often talk about the fighting men of the Fianna, but did you know, historically, the actual Fianna, they were an actual people who went around hunting and doing all sorts all over Ireland. They were 1/3 made up of women. So it's the fighting men and women of the Fianna.
Wow. Well, that's all for us.
That's us.
It's long ago.
Long ago. August got a market.
You!